Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the situation in Europe, the situation with Ukraine, and how the energy war has now undoubtedly made its way onto mainland Europe. Now, we're going to be focusing this video on how the Europeans are going to be affected about their recent decision, or I don't even know what you call it. Decision? Yeah, I guess decision would be the right word to use, that the Ukrainians have given to stop Russian gas transiting through Ukraine. Now, I don't even know how this was still happening, but, apparently it was. There was contracts in place and yada, 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 whatever. It doesn't matter. It's happened and it's stopped now. So undoubtedly, this energy war now is in Europe. And what we've seen over the last 2-3 years, I guess, is the concerted effort for Vladimir Putin to cause an energy crisis in Europe. Now, I'm going to go on to the next article now. But before we start, well, the first article, but before we talk about this, just remember, everything comes from energy. Energy is everything. Everything comes from energy. With an abundance of cheap or free energy, although there's no such thing as free, but with an abundance of energy, you can do what you want. You don't have, because ultimately all finance, if you want to look on a macro scale, everything is energy. Like if you want to talk about space colonization, you don't talk about money, you talk about energy. You talk about your energy budgets. And that's the same, realistically, that's the same anyway. If your energy cost is low, your production costs are low. If your production costs are low, the cost to the consumers are low. So everything is affected by energy. And I don't think people understand how much of an impact the energy price and being able to control somebody's energy supply, or for that matter, demand, actually affects that country. So let's just go straight onto the first article then, guys. This one. So the era of cheap Russian gas, obviously synonymous with energy, to the EU stops as transits across Europe stop. Sorry, my mind was running too fast there. Now, the article talks about it, but I want to focus on a couple of key areas here. So, several EU members, including Slovakia and Austria, continue to import significant amounts of gas from Russia. Austria's energy regulator said that it did not forecast any disruption as it had diversified sources and built up reserves. Now, the interesting thing about having a reserve of something, that's what it is. It's a reserve. So at some point, that reserve will end. But the end of the transit deal has already caused serious tensions with Slovakia, which is now the main entry point of Russian gas into the EU, and earned transit fees from piping gas to Austria, Hungary, and Italy. Slovakia said it will pay more for alternate routes. Its energy regulator announced early December that gas prices for consumers would rise in 2025. So remember, if they're rising in Europe, that means that the demand has gone up and supplies come down. So that means it's going to be all over Europe. And guess what? We in the United Kingdom are, we are going to feel this at some point. Robert Fico said Slovakia's prime minister said on Wednesday that an end to the deal would have drastic consequences for the EU countries, but not Russia. And that's the problem here, guys, okay? All these sanctions we try and put on Russia, they just mean we pay a higher price for things, We pay a higher price for our electricity. We pay a higher price for our fuel. And this doesn't bother Russia at all, because if you've got the supply and the demand's there, you can pretty much guarantee that each and every time you will find a customer. So what we've seen is when the West put the sanctions on Russia's oil and said, right, we're not having any more cheap Russian oil, the Russians said, okay, no problem. We'll sell that east. We'll go and sell that to China. In fact, what they did is they sold that to India. India then take our gas, not our oil. India take Russian oil, refine it, and then sell it back to the Brits and the Europeans at a massive markup. So we are actually buying Russian oil. We're just buying it and giving a big margin to the Indians, because this is how the world works. We need energy. We cannot do without energy. So it's all well and good David Lammy standing up there, Keir Starmer saying we're gonna smash the gangs, we're gonna destroy Putin. Okay, stop. It's not going to happen, all right? It's certainly not going to happen by making them richer, because all that's done, all these sanctions on Russia, all they've done with the sanctions on the Russian oil is it made Putin grow a Russian dark fleet of oil tankers. He's now earning more money by selling his oil east. And that oil is then trickling its way back to Western Europe, and we're just paying more for it. It's absolute insanity. So, the only people that these sanctions are hurting are us in Europe. And of course, turning this gas supply off, it's going to be really devastating to Austria. They use a lot of cheap gas from Russia. So that's now Germany and Austria, two huge heavy manufacturing countries that have built a lot of their industry on cheap energy, cheap Russian gas that gives them the ability to, for their heavy manufacturing. And once that energy source is over, that's kind of over for their heavy manufacturing now. Like I said, like I've done previous videos with the, Nord Stream gas pipeline, when that stopped pumping gas, that really affected the Germans. This has really affected the Austrians. I think BMW still produce in Austria. So you can see how this is having an effect on the Europeans, and how the Europeans are now being dragged into this energy war. Remember, this comes at the same time as the energy grid in Ukraine has been absolutely destroyed. And we've been very lucky again this year, because so far we've had a relatively mild winter so far. But, in the next couple of days, I think there is some minus temperatures spreading across Europe. So that could have a big effect on the energy sector. Remember, okay, there's not going to be as much energy being able to be pumped into Europe. So when there's this drain on the energy grid, you can expect rolling blackouts, rolling power blackouts, because gas will power the furnaces will power the turbines will power electricity. So all this stuff eventually will have a trickle-on effect to us in Europe. So what is the situation on the ground in Ukraine? And as always, I should have probably done this at the start of the video, but I'm going to give you guys the shared map on the war map. So this is the key town here, guys, okay, Pokrovsk. I keep saying this is a key town, and like the Russians have been pushing day on day on day to this location. There's two main routes you need to think, well, three, I guess. You've got the main road route in here from the north, I guess, west. You've got the train route that runs almost parallel to it, like there. And then you've got a train route from the south that obviously runs here. Coming out, you've got these roads and a road south. These would be called main supply routes. Now, the significance of these is you can't move heavy tanks and heavy machinery on this. Can I make this into a satellite thing? I don't know. I should probably do. I'll try. In fact, hang on, guys. We're going off the cuff. No, we'll not do that. Let's see what. No, I don't think you can. Anyway, so this whole region, it's really moist, fertile ground, and you just can't drive tanks cross country. You can't do it. You get them bogged in. They're too heavy. They slip. It's wet. It's just not feasible. So that's why you have to control these roads, because obviously on roads you can move heavy logistics. You can move tanks. You can move all the rest of that stuff. So the tactics that the Russians are using at the moment, so I've been told, they're using stripped down 4x4 vehicles. They're using off-road buggies and quad bikes that can operate on this soft ground. They're moving fast behind the Ukrainian positions and then either attacking them from the flanks or from the rear. This is causing huge disruption. It's causing huge command and control issues. And as you can see now, guys, this is from the 30th of November. So I'm just going to I'm going to skip forwards to today. So this is like just over a month and 1 day ago. So look at the amount of ground that the Russians are taking every day, and the Ukrainians are not able to push back. Now, I've been monitoring this. Nobody else has been talking about this, and I think this really is the Black Swan event. This is the Black Swan event that nobody's talking about. The Black Swan event that is happening every day in real time, and we are documenting it here, guys. Okay, so that's the amount of ground the Russians are taking. What I would say is they're going to encircle Pokrovs, and at that point, as soon, you know, they may even push further west and then just come up and knock this train line out and the MSR. Then you don't need it to even go into Pokrovs. You've actually isolated them. Normally what they would do is, once they're about to do the final assault on Pokrovs, they would leave this main supply route open because they want all the Ukrainian troops to flee. They want them to use that road and evacuate as quickly as possible. They don't want people to fight to the last man inside Pokrovs. That is a bad day out for everyone. But like we can see on this map, guys, you know, it's only a matter of time before everything has gone in that region. Remember, okay, when people are talking about peace deals, when people are talking about peace negotiations, they're starting to change their tune. Remember, Donald Trump was saying he's going to have a peace deal in 24 hours before he's inaugurated. Now he's saying that it's a little bit more difficult. Now the proposed peace deal has been rejected by the Russians because the Russians didn't like it. And of course, no side is going to agree to a peace deal, especially the Russians. Why would the Russians come to a peace deal when they're pushing ground every day? I do this every day, guys, on my when I'm doing a Ukraine update. I want to do it every day. I want to show you guys how much ground the Ukrainians are losing. All over the front line, they're losing 300 meters here, 300 meters there. Now, you times that by the front line, and it is kilometers and kilometers and kilometers and kilometers per day, square kilometers that are being lost. And every kilometer that's taken is a kilometer closer to Europe, and it's also bringing us closer to boots on the ground in Ukraine. So that is the jux of the video, guys. The gas deal or the gas pipeline that stopped through Ukraine, that means that the energy war has now hit mainland Europe. The war essentially has come to mainland Europe. The ground that the Ukrainians are taking day by day, people are talking about a Black Swan event. I think the real Black Swan event is the amount of ground that the Russians are taking per day, guys. Anyway, I'm going to max to grade it. I'll get you guys another video later.